It is my great pleasure to be able to welcome the next speaker to the stage. This is a company I've been following for a little while, but obviously from a distance, given that he comes to us from the United States of America. The topic of the discussion is the future of banking, redefining the customer experience. And I'd like you to please join me in welcoming to the stage now the co-founder and CFO of Simple from the USA, Mr. Shamir FST. Please join me in welcoming Shamir to the stage. There he is.
Hi there. Sounds like the sound works fine. So yeah, I'm Shamir, CFO and co-founder of Simple.com. And before I get started, I thought I'd just ask a few questions to get a sense of the audience here. You can just raise your hand. How many of you have heard of Simple or Bank Simple, as we used to be called? Wow, that's impressive. Second question. How many of you here would call yourself bankers? Bankers. Consider yourself bankers? Less than I expected. The last question. How many of you here could tell me right now how much you spent personally over the last 3 months and what you spent it on? I'm not going to ask you what it is. I just want to know if you could do it. Oh wow, it's usually 0 when I ask that question, but I guess I'm in a crowd of bankers, so it's not surprising that some people can actually do that. The reason I asked that question is that's the question my co-founder Josh had 3 years ago, right? Josh and I went to business school together, and after business school he worked at a startup, and then he went and worked at a hedge fund. He also got married and bought a house and had a bunch of startup stock, and he suddenly discovered that his finances had gotten really complicated and he couldn't understand them. He had the same question and he couldn't get an answer to it. He tried Mint, Quicken, Wasabi, Excel, and none of it worked. None of it gave him that picture of his finances he was looking for. And he finally got so frustrated that he sent an email to the closest thing that he knew to a banker, which was me. And the email he sent me was, let's start a retail bank. Now, since business school, I'd gone and worked as a consultant at McKinsey & Company, and this was the middle of 2009, so I had more experience shutting down banks than starting them, right? But the question intrigued me, so I flew into New York, and we sat down in Josh's basement, and we started brainstorming, right? And we realized that the problem was not that Mint or Quicken or any of these tools sucked. The problem was that it was really hard to get the data that the banks had and get it in a format that would actually be usable, right? Mint and all these guys have to rely on screen scraping and a bunch of hacks, and you just don't get good usable data that way. And that's when we had our light bulb moment. We realized that banks make money by keeping customers confused, right? There's been a wave of deregulation in the US since the 80s, and what that has also led is to consolidation. So you now have these behemoth banks which pretty much control the market, and at the same time, in this period, the banks discovered fee revenue, right? And it rapidly got to the point where those big banks are now making more money from fees and charges than they are from net interest margin, right? Which means that they have no incentive to help their customers understand their finances, right? In fact, they have a perverse incentive to confuse their customers so that those customers will screw up in some way and get charged a fee, which is how the banks will make money, right? When we came to this realization, we also realized 2 things. We realized that confusing your customers to make money is a pretty screwed up business model. And that if we could build a replacement that actually helped customers engage with their finances, we could actually disrupt that business model. And that's basically what we set out to do, right? And that's what we have done, right? We redesign banking and we make it modern, human, and simple. And the way we do that is by focusing on the customer experience. Now, let me give you a quick example. So this is how we ship our debit cards. Now, every one of you has gotten a debit card or a credit card or some form of card, and it usually comes stuck to a piece of paper. And the best thing about that experience is when you rip the card off and you pull that gummy bit of glue and you play with it for 5 minutes, and then you're like, whatever. Everything else goes in the trash immediately, right? And we were like, if this is the only tangible experience, the only time we ship something physical that a customer can touch, right? It better be special, right? So what we do is we send our cards attached to this piece of cardboard, right? And it goes inside this linen pouch, which goes inside an envelope. It looks nothing like a traditional card. The first thing that a customer does when they open it and they pull it out, the words on the top are, "It's a good day," right? It's a good day because this is the day that you got your simple card. You can break off the bottom piece and it becomes a little minimalist wallet where you have your card in front, cash behind, and the message is simple. With Simple, all you need is your simple card and some cash, right? One thing I want to point out before we go much further is that we're not actually a chartered bank in the US ourselves. We quickly realized that all the problems that we were looking to solve had nothing to do with balance sheets or treasury or any of that back-end stuff. We wanted to build the technology and the experience for customers, right? And the quickest way to do that and the most efficient was to partner with an FDIC-insured bank, which provides us deposit insurance, does settlements for us. They hold the money while we deal with customers. It's pretty simple, right? It took us 2.5 years to build and launch this. Actually, almost 3 years from that first email to launch. And we've only been launched for about 4 months now. In that time, we've gone pretty rapidly. 15,000 customers, about 160,000 waiting for invites on our sign-up list. I think it might be close to 170 now, actually. And I should say hundreds of millions in annualized volume, because that increases every single day. You know, before I go to the next slide, I thought maybe what I should do is just give you guys a quick demo of Simple itself, right? So this is the Simple website, right? I'm going to log in now, and I keep all my credentials in a secure password store, just like all of you guys should. Okay, looks like the Wi-Fi is going to work. Okay, it's a bit slower here in Australia than it usually is. This is my finances, by the way. I live on Simple. This is, if I swipe my card right now, transaction should pop on that screen in about 15 seconds. And this is open chemo. This is my life, right? First thing I want you to notice is that as soon as I log in, it goes straight into a transaction view, right? We don't show customers multiple accounts because we believe in one account, one card, right? Customers don't really want to deal with, you know, moving money from checking into savings or into a CD or whatever. That's really what the bank should be doing for them. What customers want to know is how much money do they have and where is that money going, right? And that's what we show them up front, right? The next thing I want to sort of point out to you guys is this safe to spend number. It's big, it's impossible to miss. It's the first number you will always see whenever you log into Simple. It's not your account balance, right? Account balance is just a number which bankers care about, right? Somebody logs into their banking website, they want to know how much money they have available to spend. So what we do is we take the account balance, we subtract any pending transactions, because, you know, just because it hasn't settled doesn't mean it won't settle. We take out any bills that you may have scheduled, because if you have your rent, or in my case, my car payment scheduled to go out, you shouldn't be spending that money today, right? And lastly, we subtract any money that you may have in goals. And I'll come back to goals a little bit later. Next thing I want to point out to you guys is just the interface itself. All our transactions are automatically categorized. They're automatically geotagged, right? And I can actually add more tags here, which I usually do on my mobile phone, right? This little map here actually shows you my life. It's mostly in the US, but a month ago I was in Spain on vacation. Last week I was in Osaka for Cybos, and now I'm in Australia. So you can see all those transactions popping up on the map. And you know, all of this is categorized and geolocated. The next thing I probably want to talk to you about is search, right? We believe that the primary way that people interact with sort of online experiences when they have questions is via search, right? So we built a fairly powerful natural language search in here. So if you click on this search, right, you'll see there's a bunch of saved searches and then some suggestions, right? Let's try this, coffee this month, okay? So I've spent about $13 on coffee this month. Not a lot, but how does it compare with coffee last month? That was a bit more, still early days. How about coffee this year, right? And on a weekly basis, I'm spending about $4 on coffee, but this week's been higher than that. That's not surprising, because when I'm traveling, I can't brew my own coffee. That's fairly quick and easy to do. And one thing I wanted to point out was just the speed, right? Running that quick analysis took me all of 5 seconds. There's this great research that came out of Google. Now, Google is, their whole business is about search. And what they did was they took their search results and they slowed down the speed at which the search results display. And they did that in increments of 100 milliseconds. And they discovered that when you slow down that search result by half a second, their click-through on ads dropped by 20%. Now, click-through on ads is sort of the single most important metric that drives Google's finances. So if you're ever wondering why Google search results are only 10 per page and not 30, you know why. Because speed matters, right? If your page loads a blink of an eye slower, guess what? Some of your customers aren't going to be waiting that blink. So we do all our search on the client itself, actually. So it's super fast and super quick. Now, next thing I want to sort of point out to you guys is just, maybe I'll go into our reports feature, right? So this basically is a nice little graph which shows me all my earning, all my expenditure, and my average balance over the last few months, right? And it also shows me where everything is going, right? Now, it's good to know that income is my biggest category, and that's more than 50%, so that's a positive sign for me. But the question we started was how much am I spending, right? So let me actually just look at what I'm spending, right? And so now I've eliminated all the income. When I look at this, I see, okay, home. What is home? That's rent. Okay, well, can't do much about that beyond sort of, moving somewhere else. So let's go back and let's look at financial, right? What is this financial? Credit. I see, American Express. So these are all my Amex bill payments. But I use Amex mainly for business expenses, and then I get reimbursed and pay it out through my account, right? So that isn't really personal spending. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate all the American Express transactions. And now I'm just looking at spent minus American, right? Now this tells me that it's not really financial transactions. After rent, it's basically food. That's my next biggest category. Let's look at that food. Restaurants. Okay, I go to restaurants a lot apparently. And when I look at this, I see, wait a second, that's bacon bean in Sydney airport. That was yesterday, so I remember that. That was actually an expense because I'm traveling, right? So occasionally I do put business expenses on my Simple card because they don't accept American Express everywhere. So let me remove those as well, all right? And when I do that, I see that food is still the second biggest category. And within food, it's actually groceries, right? Restaurants aren't that big at all. So really, the only thing I can do to make a major change to my finances is move to a new place or get a raise. I have a really stingy CFO, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. Probably the next thing I want to do here is talk to you guys about goals, right? Goals is how we help customers actually both save up and frankly budget for stuff, right? So about 6 months ago, I actually went trap shooting, and I fell in love with it, and I was like, I need to buy myself a shotgun if I'm going to get any good at this. So I created a goal, right? And I said I am going to save up enough to buy the cheapest shotgun you can find by March next year, right? And that's the goal is here, the amount I'm saving up for is here, how much I've already saved, and how much I have left on a per day basis, right? That's all over here. If I wanted to create a new one, let's say I wanted to save up some money for a vacation in Sydney, because it seems like a nice city, I'd like to actually see it one of these days. It's probably going to cost me $3,000, and let's say that's for a vacation to Sydney, all right? And well, maybe next summer, right? So I say August 2013, right? Seems like a good time. And let's start it off with 10 bucks. Save over time, right? That automatically pops in here, as well as the one which I created earlier today to test this out. And you'll see that it's already telling me how much I need to save per day. And as long as I don't spend more than my save to spend, I will always achieve all my goals, right? That's, if you think about it, that's a pretty powerful way of helping customers control and manage their behavior. What makes all of this possible is good data, right? Every time you swipe a card, we get, or one of our customers swipes their card, we get about 25 different fields of data, and we use every one of those fields. Right? We never throw away a piece of data. We keep all data forever. If you think about it, Gmail gives you, I don't know, 10,000 emails, easily searchable at the blink of an eye for free, right? So storage is cheap and data is valuable, and we use all of it. We use the MCC code for these categorizations. We use the zip codes for geolocation, and all of it is available to the customer instantaneously. You can just keep scrolling forever until you get to there's no 90 days, there's no clicking, there's nothing. It's all right here. I could go on about this for hours, but maybe I should get back to my presentation. Right? Our customers love us, right? These are just a few selected tweets. It's hundreds a day. You can go on Twitter and just search for @Simplify, and you will see everything that our customers think about us. I just picked a few. Brad at the bottom right is actually a journalist for this online blog. It's amazing. I have never loved a bank. I love Simplify, right? Tina Eisenberg is actually a pretty famous designer based in New York, and she has like, I think she has like 400,000 Twitter followers. Incredibly impressed by Simplify's onboarding process. Talk about intuitive, smooth, and easy. Plus, the app is gorgeous. So, if you think about it, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all help people engage with different social groups, right? People care about their friends, they care about their business contacts, and they definitely care about their Twitter followers, but people are obsessed with their money, right? It is something fundamental to everybody. And banks right now don't give people any easy way of engaging with their finances. That is the problem that we solve, right? We make interacting with your financial data effortless. And when you make it that easy, you find that people, people's anxiety levels go down, and people actually use that data to modify their own behavior. And that is powerful. And that's it. Maybe I should go back to the first slide. And I'm happy to take any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, I'm sure that's probably raised a question or two. I might take this one in the middle firstly, and we'll see how many more we can get to.
I feel like I've been ignoring you guys a little bit, so I'm going to stand over here for now.
I'd assume you started your business or started planning about what sort of operation as a business, commercial enterprise, about 2 years ago. How did you raise the financing to start the business?
It's all right here. We raised our first, we raised a small angel round, went out and did a lot of research and talked to banks and got bank partners and processing partners and a whole bunch of other things lined up. Then raised a Series A from a bunch of VCs in New York. And when you tell VCs that global advertising industry is $600 billion in revenue and US financial services industry, just US, is 1.2 trillion, they really like that. VCs are very happy to disrupt the banking industry if they can find a way to do it. So we raised a Series A in like late summer of 2010, and then a Series B last year. And so we've raised about, talk about total capital, about 17 million so far. Enough to keep us going. I mean, the biggest problem we had with raising capital was actually explaining banking to VCs. Most of them don't even know what net interest margin is, right? But once you get past that and they understand sort of the mechanics of it, they totally get that customers hate their banks and that if there's a solution which works for them, there's a huge market for that.
Right, I had a question at the front here.
Hi, your waiting list says that you're being quite restrained in making sure you don't take on customers till you're confident you can provide the service. Has that been a crucial part of finding the right funding to make sure that you keep a constant growth strategy, and what's your planned approach to that?
See, in some ways we have no choice. I mean, we are about the customer experience, and if I try to onboard 100,000 people tomorrow with my 12-person customer relations staff, you know, they'd probably jump out of the window and there would be hell to pay on Twitter, right? So because we are so public and we live on social media, it's what drives our growth, right? I mean, if you look right around June 2012, you'll see that that invite list jumped. That's because we started onboarding customers, right? And every time we do a big push on trying to get out, like, you know, increase our capacity and make the funnel wider, we find that the invite list just grows faster, right? So, and frankly, we don't have any real competition. I mean, it's not like BOFA is going to build this and ship it tomorrow, right? So we have the luxury of a product which people want, and we are focused on making sure that the customer experience stays good for every customer and doesn't get sort of subsumed in a rush for growth, right? Because we know if we make that mistake, we'll pay for it later.
I had another question in the middle here.
Hi, that was quite an impressive search that you showed us. How much of the data comes directly off the raw narrative of the transaction and versus how much of it is tagged by the user?
So it's all automatically categorized, it's all automatically geolocated. The categorizations based on MCC code tend to be pretty good. I'd say over 95% accurate. Geolocation is pretty hit or miss, right? So the thing is, we work very hard to close the transaction loop so that you can swipe your card and your phone can buzz in your wallet in less than 15 seconds, right? So you could be waiting in, you know, could have paid for it in line and still be waiting for that coffee and just, you know, correct anything or tag it right there. In that search that I did, the word spent is a keyword that we recognize, and we know that it means debits, not credits, so that was automatic. American, when I said minus American, it just pulled out everything which is American, and in my list, American is just American Express, so cleared those out. When I did minus expense, expense is a hashtag, which whenever I do a business expense on my simple card, I just tag it as expense right there, right? And we even suggest tags on your phone and in the app, so it's very, very quick. You can open up the app, tag something, and close it in less than 5 seconds. We also do a lot of stuff. I mean, we take the data, we send it to Google Maps, to Foursquare. We have a machine learning model. We do a lot to clean up that data. And every time a customer cleans something up, we learn from them.
Do we have any more questions? Yep, go for it.
Hi. Hi, like you said that...
Oh, there you are. I was like, did you hear that?
Like you said that other banks make money by charging customers and whatnot, and credit cards and all that stuff. How does your bank make money if they are not into the same loop and pay your employees?
So one thing I want to make clear is, in general, customers have no problem with fees, right? In fact, I've had lots of customers email me and say, please charge me a fee, but don't screw me over. Right? Customers feel ripped off when they see something unexpected on their statement, right? As long as you're upfront and clear about it, they have no issues with it. So we do charge fees. We don't charge overdraft fees or penalty fees or any of the other things that customers get pissed off. But, you know, I mean, and in fact, if you go look here, here's an ATM transaction in Sydney Airport where I got charged a fee because international ATM transactions are not free, right? We put a big red ATM fee tag right there, so you know exactly how much the fee was. It was $4, and you can just click on that tag and see all the transactions where I was charged an ATM fee, right? And if you look at them, they were in Spain, and then they were in Canada, and then they were in Australia. So we have a wide ATM network in the US, but obviously it's not global, right? So Our philosophy is really that we don't profit from fees. Most of these fees are just passed through. We make money from interchange and interest margin just like any other bank does. And it's actually a pretty decent business model. There's a lot of money in banking, funnily enough.
Okay, I think I'll take another question at the front. We might just squeeze one more in after that.
Just wondering if you can elaborate on your growth for the next few years, what you're targeting.
Not too much. I will say we're going to go from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of customers next year. We always have the, Instagram can launch and have 20 million people in 6 months. That is just not possible in the banking industry, right? There is not a balance sheet that can manage that sort of growth, except with people whom we wouldn't partner with. So just even with unlimited funding, we probably wouldn't get to more than hundreds of thousands of customers in the, I'll say, medium term. The eventual goal is to get to millions. That's going to be a few years.
And yep, Matt, if you want to grab that one, we'll have to make that the last question, unfortunately.
As we can see, the concept is quite simple. What is to stop any other bank throughout the rest of the world doing exactly this?
It's a great question. So I'll tell you an anecdote. I'm very open about talking to bankers. I'll demo this anywhere, anytime. And was actually the chairman of one of the largest banks in the world. I demoed this to him about 6 months ago. And great guy, had very smart questions. And somebody on his team asked me exactly the same question. He was like, why are you showing this to us? Don't we compete with you? And I was like, no, you don't. Even if I gave you my entire code base today, right, and you could figure out some way of integrating it into your 30-year-old mainframe-based system, I mean, let's say you could do that. What you cannot do is replicate my team, right? As I said, I'm the closest thing to a banker in this company, right? Everybody else are startup guys. And whatever you copy today, 6 months from now, I'll have built something better, right? So we work in the startup, the speed of the startup world, where you have to innovate on a daily, weekly basis. Banks have product cycles of years. So frankly, I don't worry about the big banks at all. I worry about small startups a lot, but nobody's quite there yet.
Right. On that note, I'll have to ask you to please join me in thanking Shamir for his talk.